If I reminded you that you are perfect, would you argue me down or step into your perfection? Welcome to Perfect Mode, where there are no excuses, no expectations, and we explore the world without limitations. I'm JClay, rapper and spiritual teacher, with my co-host Troy Washington, your friendly neighborhood realtor. Let's be real, so let's be perfect. Perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode. Perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode. Perfect.
Welcome to Perfect Mode. Welcome to Perfect Mode. And we start by telling y'all that we love y'all. We're grateful for the opportunity to be anywhere, sharing our thoughts, hopefully, and helping you realize that you are perfect. And the reason why I can say that unapologetically is because I know that you are one of one. You are numero uno. You cannot be replicated, duplicated. And the only reason you would think that you're not perfect is if you're looking at this person on the side of you and saying, I'm not them. But guess what? You are you. And that's all you need. And of course, it's yours truly, Troy Washington, your friendly neighborhood realtor. And I have my boy, JClay, spiritual rapper and teacher. And we got a special guest today. We got a special guest. You know, the daughter of Bob Marley, Alyssa Marley. She is the host of Something, I'm sorry, let me get it right, a Something Paranormal podcast. And I promise you, we about to come on here and, you know, enlighten, hopefully, ourselves and help to hopefully enlighten you. What up, y'all?
Yeah. What's up? What's up? Happy day. Happy Sunday to all my perfect people on this perfect day for the perfect time to just discuss the happiness secret and everything. How are you doing, Alyssa?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Good.
Awesome.
Good.
Yeah,
You know,
awesome.
we're definitely appreciative for you to be on the show with us because, you know, you make us better. And, you know, I hope that everybody, and I know that everybody will realize that once this is over. We definitely encourage everybody to like, share, and subscribe. You know, somebody that needs to realize that they're perfect, this is definitely the time, and we put that in your hands. All right, Jay, let's go ahead and get this thing started, bro.
Let's start out with, okay, we're talking about the happiness secret. So I want to know y'all's definition of happiness because, you know, happiness is a broad subject and it can entail a lot of things. And I just want to know, like, personally, what's your definitions? And we'll start with our special guest.
Oh man, that's a tough one. Like there could be so many ways to look at happiness, but like it could just be like that feeling of contentment. But I think there's also like, you know, a cross between like being loving and happiness, because like if you feel joy, love, happiness, like you just feel uplifted. And then when you share that with other people, then you also uplift them. It's like a ripple effect. So I don't know. It's love, happiness, and just feeling really good.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of piggyback off. I think the key element in what she said for myself is the feeling part of it. And it's funny enough that at any given time we can feel unhappy. It's just, you know, just the thought about it alone. But just you're right. The feeling of joy and love, I guess, in whatever you're a part of at the moment. And I kind of what for me, you know, when I can love, I mean, when I feel in love with the moment is what happiness is for me.
Yeah. And it's an interesting concept because I'm trying to think of the times that I'm happy. Like I feel happy now, but I'm not even thinking about it. And so it's almost like it's just a state of being, but I guess in some ways you could be in a state of being where you're not happy too. So it's just an interesting concept. But I guess too, because, you know, we're saying the happiness secret that they didn't teach you in school. How is it different than what you're taught about happiness? Like what would you say is the proverbial, this is what happiness is, this is what society thinks happiness is?
I mean, like when we were in school, like we were always taught like, well, maybe it was just like, you know, the underlying current of events is that like, if you have materialistic things, then you're going to be happy. But like, that's just like not the way that it is 100%.
And I'll say this too, having kids and actually, you know, I substitute in school too, so I'm around kids a lot. And the one thing that I do realize is that love or happiness is conditional, or the way that it's taught. And so, just like you said, material things are the things that tend to we project to say, hey, if you have these things, it'll make you happy. But it's also the aspect of, if you do this for me, it'll make me happy. So there's a part of teaching people that receiving things from people, or specifically doing things, are tied to happiness.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So what's interesting about this is I think about the plight of the kid, or the plight of us going into adulthood. And, you know, like usually they say teens are rough for kids because they rebel. And in some instances, I wonder if happiness plays a role in it, because you're taught, like you said, a certain way to happiness. You have to do this, you have to be this kind of person, but it's often it's not what you want to do. You know what I mean? And you're coming to grips with that. So it's like you almost rebel, but then you kind of settle into it when you say, okay, well, fine, let me give this a try. And then when it doesn't work, you're like, y'all lied to me. You know, you said this will make me happy. And so to that, like, can we, like, how can we do it better? I don't even know what I'm asking, but like, is that the right way to go?
You can go ahead, Alyssa.
I know this is a hard question.
Well, you know, especially like in school, you're trying to strive to get a career, have a family, you know, reach all these milestones. And then we kind of, the thief of joy or happiness is really comparing yourself to other people. And you're just like constantly like, oh my gosh, like I'm not engaged yet, or I'm not married, I don't have kids, when you see other people around you. So, you know, you just feel like, I just always feel like, you know, the thief of joy is like comparison, right? So I feel like we really need to focus on ourselves and really understand that, you know, we'll be happy if we love ourselves. Like that's like the very first step. You have to be happy with where you're at and content with where you're at now, and just kind of be in that present moment. And then any step that you move forward, like everything will always just like work out. If you understand that, then I feel like you'll be happier.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead, Jake. No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask a question to you specifically. Wait, Alyssa, do you have kids too?
I don't.
You don't? No. Okay. Because I wanted to ask Troy, because I know sometimes like it's easy to accept it for yourself, but you also want your kids to have something else. And I just wanted to ask briefly, Troy, like, how do you navigate what you want for your kids and what they want, like as far as happiness and living up to it?
So, story of my life. Again, you know, this is kind of how, this is what life is every day to me. What I realize, trying to help somebody else realize it too. And it's not like trying to help, you know, Alyssa or JClay realize that these are people that like literally lean on everything that I say. And I can say things in such a manner that would push them further away from what I'm trying to prove anyway. But nonetheless, bro, like the funniest thing is I realized that they don't realize it a long time ago. Because my kids are what we would say is spoiled. They have pretty much everything. They got PlayStation 5, they got iPads, they got phones, they got toys. Like they have all of these things, right? And then in any given moment, they can say, I'm not happy or I'm not bored. And in your head, it's like, why are you not happy? Why are you bored? Why do you feel this way when you have everything? And again, when you look at that and you ask yourself the question again, something that I was able to witness a long time ago was, dang, they're not happy with themselves. They haven't found within themselves where they can be in love or be in joy. And the way that I show that more than anything, that I feel like is always to, and I don't do this in a way that I feel like is hurtful, because I think that they still want, but it's to shun things. And so if you were ever, you know, to call me on my birthday and say, what are you doing? I always say nothing. I'm just spending time with my kids. And so when my community on these days, they always like, well, why you don't want anything? And I always tell them, well, I have everything. I have myself and I have y'all, and there's nothing else that I need to make me happy. And so they're always like, what? But it's a repetitive thing. And so now at you know, any given moment, it's no question of why I'm happy or why I'm content or why I'm full of joy, because they nothing external for me that I need in order for me to be that.
Yeah. That's that's interesting. As you were saying that, I was trying to think about times where I was unhappy, but I knew I was unhappy. You know, like sometimes you're just unhappy, you're unaware. And when I knew that I was like, I want to get back to this happiness. And sometimes affirmations right away just didn't do the trick. And I don't know. And I guess like what do you guys do when you find yourself in a non-happy state and you want to kind of get back to that because you know how much better you are in a happy state?
Well, we were kind of talking about this, like the pre-recording, music is really healing. Like I find like if I'm ever feeling really down, like listening to music always like pumps me up, or if I'm singing, that always pumps me up. But just like being around like people that really care about you, even like your family, for instance, like if I'm having, especially if I'm crying, like I'll call my mom and like she just knows like how to make me feel better. You just have to get back to the things that really have meaning to you and then surround yourself with that.
Yeah.
And I guess I would have to say for myself, when it comes to how I feel, I would say that I'm introverted. I don't think I'm introverted, but I think when it comes to personally how I feel, I literally don't get other people involved. But what I do is I sit down and I will literally ask myself a question: am I really unhappy? And like I start to I guess poke and prod myself to figure out where I am or where my mind is. And a lot of times I'm generally able to figure out, okay, well, I'm worried about this, or I'm in doubt about this, or I feel like this obstacle is going to be too big, or maybe I do want to be around people and I haven't been able to express it to myself. But nonetheless, I kind of just down and then I start to ask myself questions so I can really see what's going on.
Yeah. What's funny about that is I'm similar in that, like, if I'm not feeling my highest, I will kind of just back away and, and ask myself so many questions. And usually I can get myself back to it. But I know that when I'm around people, it is easier for me to be happy, but I don't always go and seek out family like Alyssa said. And what I was thinking about, I've been reading a lot on vibrations, like what your vibrational match to will appear in front of you. So if you feel like you're not happy, you can only see unhappiness. So it's almost like those happy people aren't even available for you anyway, unless you're willing to give that vibration. And it's a tough thing to do. But shout out real quick. Shout out to Loretta. Yes, music raises the vibration. And what you listen to too, as far as, so if you listen to JClay, my music now. Go ahead.
I want to say something to that about your vibration not being what you want it to be, and then you finding matching vibrations. And that's one of the things that I feel like I would be fearful of, is that me not understanding where I am and then seeking out the happiness, but finding myself being aligned with things that I don't necessarily want, or family that are doing things that are not necessarily of where I'm trying to go. And again, I'm not saying that happens for everybody, but I know for myself that I've ended up being in situations with people that I shouldn't have been in situations with in my time of growing up. And so I think for myself, again, trying to recognize what is really going on with you right now. Why do you feel like, again, why have you even described this as unhappy? Like, what about it is not pleasing to you? And then trying to get to the root cause of that, so that way I can change my vibration. So that way, when I do go around people, I go around the people that are going to help me raise my vibration higher than where it actually is. Well, go ahead.
Yeah. So to that, and question for you, Alyssa. Some people, I realize that they can't get to that because they don't believe that they deserve happiness or that they could even be happy. What would you say to them, or someone that came to you like that? Like, how? I got nothing to be happy about.
Like, I was just thinking, like, when you said, it's really hard for you to like put yourself out there and like kind of ask for help or surround yourself with people. Don't you ever find too that like when you're doing something that's good for you, or you want to do something that's good for you, it doesn't always feel good. Like you know, if you want to work out, for instance, like, you know, you're like, I don't really want to do this until you actually do it. And then after you do it, then you feel good. But it's all those things that are good for you that you're like, you have this like instant resistance. But I think to your second point there, like the question, you know, starting with gratitude is also another way to bring that happiness. Like just start recognizing the things that you have, and then the more you are thankful for the things, like, oh, I have a roof over my head, oh, I have the money to pay for food for myself, like I have a family, that it'll be easier to kind of pivot towards happiness. I think it stems from gratitude for sure.
I love that. It's so true. Troy, do you want to say something?
Yeah, and I just wanted to add as well the fact that just realizing that happiness is a domino effect, just like the opposite, right? And funny enough, like I have kids that there's some kids at school that they were in trouble, right? And the thing is, they've been doing a lot of things to keep them in trouble, to the point where they were almost expelled from school, so they were not going to be able to come back to school. So they separated these kids and they put them in different classrooms. Well, I just happened to be the teacher that was in those classrooms for the days that those students were in those classes, right? And when I was talking to them, now again, this is me understanding that kids are impressionable, right? And then I'm an authority figure, and I can instill seeds in them that can help them understand what's going on, right? So this is just me kind of coming into this with the mindset of, I know how I feel like I can help them, right? But this was also teaching them what I feel like was happiness has a domino effect. And so the kids were expressing to me, man, I just hate school, you know, all of these different things that they don't like about it, unhappiness, right? But again, all the steps that they took along the way, the fight, the arguments, not liking the teachers, not getting their classwork done, it all kind of was falling in line with each other, right? And so what I did for these kids on these days, where I literally asked them, I said, hey, you know, what is it that y'all want to be? It's these two kids. I said, what do y'all want to be when y'all grow up? And they told me, and I was like, well, you know, you can do that, but you can start doing that now. And so I kind of just made them write down their goals, that, you know, broke it down to all of these different details. And I said, but it all starts here. You have to understand that you can, and that you have to have the right mentality about it. Now, this is where I told them just to take a chance. And so one of the students literally went to the teacher, was like, hey, can I get some extra credit? I want to get my grade up to this. So a few weeks later, the kid comes back to me. Now, mind you, when I was with them the other times, they're unhappy, they're mad, they're cantankerous. They want to, I can't wait till I get out of here. And they came to me smiling one morning and was like, hey, man, I went to my teacher. Now, now they're happy. You can see it. I went to my teacher. They gave me the assignments. I got good grades in their class now. She's going to give me this extra project. Man, I appreciate it. And you can just see it was just glowing. And I was like, look at the domino effect. Do you not want to be here? No, I do want to be here. Oh, you do want to get your work done. Well, what about the person that you were fighting with? Oh, well, we're cool now because we got the same. And it just showed her or them that choosing happiness led to happiness in a bunch of different areas. But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I love that. Like you talk about the ripple effect of happiness. Like by being willing to choose, not even choosing, by being willing to choose happiness, it reverberates in everything that you do. And I love what Alyssa said, because I was really thinking it's hard to be angry if you're in gratitude about things. If you're grateful for things, like you can't be, it's almost impossible. And I think that's one of the secrets, one of the happiness secrets that they didn't teach you at school. Like just being grateful for anything at all. But true, not just saying the words, but truly meaning it. Like, I am grateful. It's raining outside right now, and I have this roof, a brand new roof actually, that they just installed a couple months ago. So I know I'm good, and I'm happy about that. Like it's an amazing process. So I want to ask, do you all have any gratitude practices, or is it just something that you just kind of remember to do from time to time, or that's a part of you?
I mean, for me, like typically, like before I go to bed, I try to say like a few things to myself. Like even if it's in my head, I'll just say like, I'm thankful for this, I'm thankful for that. I think also like even just meditating and being present, like I may not specifically think of what I'm grateful for at that moment, but I think just being present in the moment and being like open to source and God or love, whatever you want to call it, is also really helpful for that as well.
For myself, I would have to say that it's 100% intentional all the time. Because again, having kids, they take and hang on every single word that you have. And like I said, as an example, for my birthday, I don't ask for anything, and I emphasize I don't need anything. I'm happy. But even on a small scale, just thinking about like when we order DoorDash, right? Or we order some food and they bring the food to the house and my food is wrong. I don't get upset. I just be like, oh, it's all good. It was supposed to be this way anyway. And I'm happy because I'm going to get food and the food is going to be good. So I'm all the time intentionally expressing gratitude. And, I know I'm doing this for the purpose of showing my kids gratitude, but it also reinforces in me what I need in order for me to actually be okay. Because sometimes I'm not okay that my food is not right, but I'm okay because I've made myself be okay because of the practice of it.
Yeah, and I find too, like when you preach happiness, almost like when you speak of happiness, it's almost like you can't be unhappy around other people because then they can be like, I thought you were Mr. Happiness. You know what I mean? So like being around people actually helps if you speak the words that you want to affirm. Like if you affirm these things regularly. And I love that you said too, how if something goes wrong, you're like, nah, I'm cool. It's going to work out for my highest good. This past week, because of the freeze, it's cold. I know Lisa's used to it, and she's in Canada, y'all. We in Texas now.
Shout out to Canada.
I'm from Chicago, but it's a freeze going on where it went below freezing point, and we have a water softener system that's outside, so we have to bypass it and wrap up the pipes so it won't explode. So we did that, and then as soon as it got above freezing point and it was over, I'm like, yes, we can get our good water back because the Houston water is not the best water. Anyway, cut it on, the bypass explodes. Water everywhere. Like I'm sitting here, I'm trying to catch the water. I'm trying to do everything I can. We hit the nozzle on the house to cut off the water to the house. Did not work. So water is just going everywhere. The side of the house is flooding. It's outside though. And so we had to figure out how to go to the front of the house and cut off the whole water to the house. We did that. We got somebody out and repaired it. And of course, we can laugh at it now, but it led to us we're going to get a new system. We got a good deal on it. This one did last way past the shelf value. So like we were grateful for that. And it was crazy. Like it changed a lot of things, but our attitude about it made the day much better than it could have been by just always assuming the worst. Like I'm always spending money. I'm always this. And so it's great to have that mindset, to practice that mindset so that when you really need it, it's there. Yeah.
I think it's really like the underlying current with what you both said, though. It's a choice, right? Like you can choose to look at things in a positive mindset and you can choose to look at things in a negative mindset. So like when you choose to be positive, like I just feel like you just notice more positive things and then it like passes on. Like, when you're at work, for instance, and everybody's just like bashing the job and saying like how crappy it is, like doesn't that really like get about vibrations? Like it lowers your vibration, and sometimes I can say like it actually hurts my spirit. So I just choose to kind of look at life with the glass half full.
Yo, it's the simple principle of the red car. Everybody's witnessed this. Whenever you decide you want a new car, you like, I want this car and I want it red. The next thing you do is you see our red cars all the time.
Yeah,
because your attention is on you're going to bring to yourself what your attention is on. And so if happiness just happens to be that thing, and again, on the flip side of it, I've seen people that I grew up with who in my own eyes, and again, I guess I can't say that something is hard or not hard to someone else, but again, just people that I've grew up with who have taken the mentality of, oh, that's bad, and then they always end up in situations all the time. And I'm like, well, why you keep ending up in this situation? Is because you're saying this is the way the world is, and so that's the way that it's coming to you all the time. But go ahead, Jay.
So it's okay. So it sounds like happiness secret number 1 is gratitude. Happiness secret number 2 is intention, right? Like intending to be happy, intending to see the happiness of it or the joy in it, no matter what. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
100%.
Shout out to Betty. She agrees as well.
Shout out.
So okay, now let's try to bridge this gap between happiness as society, as we believe society has taught it to us, and happiness as it is now. Like we said, like, okay, we're taught that through things, through items, we should be happy. But that's not always the case. We get these items and we're still unhappy. But being grateful for these items, could that lead to happiness, or is it just gratitude, period? You know what I'm asking?
I don't know.
I feel what you're saying.
Tough one.
I feel what you're saying.
Right. Is it just the spirit of gratitude, or is it gratitude for something? Like, does it have to be an object of your gratitude?
No, I think it would be more the spirit. And like it's just like a mindset. Like you can choose to be happy, or you can choose not to be. And then like the more it's like, thoughts are things. Like I truly believe that, like with the whole law of attraction thing, which is kind of what you were saying about the red car. So I don't know. I just feel like if you have this like you have the proper mindset, then it will happen. And yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah. So
no, I agree. And I think it go back to the point that I was saying when on the flip side of it, the person that does not live in gratitude opens up a world of non-gratitude. So when I think about like, the spirit of gratitude, when you take all things away and just say that I'm happy, I think it opens up a world for limitless possibilities. I think about people who are on the street, in a sense, not having anywhere to go, but have embraced being on the street, but the creators that they've been able to become because they're gracious of just having an opportunity to be alive. You know what I'm saying? And I just think that, the gratitude without any intangible thing tied to it opens you up to have everything, in a sense.
So we all have people around us that might not be so happy right now or in a given moment. Yet, we're being intentional with our happiness. Can we uplift them? Is that even our job? Should we not even try? Because I've been unhappy before trying to make somebody happy, but I wasn't clear on my intention either. So it's like, can this be gifted easily, or does it just depend on you yourself? You can only control yourself.
I think that like if you choose to be happy, like it could, help that person to be uplifted, but I don't think it's really our responsibility to change somebody's mindset. But you can always kind of, give the silver lining, like, yeah, like I hear you, but at least this. But sometimes that could be taken as like, you're not being sincere, you're not really like giving them the support that they need. So it just depends on the situation. But I think that like it's not a responsibility, and it's also our responsibility to take care of our own happiness and spirit, because sometimes when you're around people who are super negative, it can bring your vibration down. So at some point, you can be there, be a listening ear and be supportive, but at some point you have to kind of cut it off depending on how bad the negativity is.
Yeah, and I co-sign Alyssa when she said it's not our responsibility. Like it's not your responsibility to make anyone happy. But with that being said, if you are electing to do so, I think that a part of that is you have to be as thoughtful for people as you are for yourself. And so what I mean by that is we're talking about how much of we're alluding to how much of a challenge it is to choose happiness, right? And if for you haven't been thoughtful enough to choose happiness and be intentional and be untethered by things, then how could you truly show somebody or lead them to the happiness that you haven't figured out? That's number one. And so I'm saying, if you're going to be that person for somebody, as thoughtful as you are for yourself, you have to be as thoughtful for them. And the question is, do you have the capability to do that? And I think that we do. But if you're not actually practicing it, it's going to be a very judgmental and difficult job, because you're looking at everything on the surface and saying, well, you would be better off like this, but you don't know how I would be better off.
Yeah, that's real. First, let me read what Sarah said. I love to imagine them in their highest excitement. Yes. I do the same thing as well. And oftentimes, like if I notice that someone is unhappy, I almost try to be extra happy. And I know that like you said, Alyssa, that could sometimes come off as maybe offensive, like, but but not so much. It just depends on your intention and how you do it. Because I love to spread happiness. It's one of the funnest things ever. And if I can do something real silly to get somebody to laugh, I'm like, yep, I got you. Yeah. You're not gonna be sad no more. But at the same time, though, like what was said, you have to know yourself, because I've been around people where it's like, man, okay, I want to remain happy, but I don't have enough on my own right now. I need to exit this situation. And just being real with yourself to know when you need to exit the situation. Yeah.
Energy vampires, right? Especially when your tank is low, it can affect you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even to that though, like, to see them as energy vampires, we're trying to strip ourselves from the power, but it's like it's more we know ourselves. So it's like we're gonna feed them either our negative energy and then blame them for it, or we can just say, you know what, let me step back so I can be pure of my heart where I need to be, because I don't feel like I have enough to give right now.
And again, to me, the way that I like to think of these, again, we're talking about a feeling here, right?
Yeah.
But I think that a part of this is people have shaped or reformed what they feel is their core belief. So they're really saying, I'm not happy. And it doesn't matter what, like, my core belief, my core value says this is a messed up situation. And so you're coming in combating somebody, you like telling somebody who believes in God that there's no God. Like, you can't change my mind about that.
Yeah.
If you're going to change my mind, you're going to have to show me. And not only are you going to have to show me, you're going to have to show me through trial and tribulation, because that's the way that I'm set up. That's the way that I'm built up. And so when you start thinking about that, that's the reason why us who are talking about how can we maintain this have to be, you got to know who you are. You got to be firm and resolute in saying that I am okay without everything. I am happy, and everything else is in addition to. And I think when you are truly like that, you start to break the chinks in other people's armor, because they'll start to question themselves about it. They'll be like, okay, well, how did they stay happy through this? Okay, how did they do this? And they're gonna have their judgments. But the more you do it, the more likely they're to open up and say, you know what, let me just get a whiff of it. And hopefully that whiff might turn it. Well, it's the domino effect that we're talking about. But go ahead.
Yeah, it's powerful, because like we are a work in progress where we have to watch ourselves all the time. Well, essentially when we're not happy, that's when that could be the trigger to watch yourself. Like, if you don't want to all the time, because when you're happy, you don't care, you're just having fun. And it's really our natural state, which is why, kids, you always see a smiling kid. It's rare that you just see a bunch of just bad, mean kids together. Like, and I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but it's kids will just find happiness in the easiest and the simplest things. So I guess that could be a trigger. That could be a fun way to look at it, is, okay, I'm not happy right now. I need to look at myself to get back. So okay, is it a figuring out why you're unhappy, or is it just to start paying more attention to what does make you happy?
You're asking some really good questions. I think it's both. I think it can be all the things. I think it can be figuring out, what makes you unhappy, or like kind of dissecting like why you're feeling the way you're feeling to get back to where you were before. I don't know. What do you think?
So this is tough for me, because the last time I was, when I'm, how you get like super happy sometimes out of nowhere, like I'm usually happy, but sometimes I get super happy, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, how did I get like this? This is amazing. I want to stay like this. But then to try to analyze it, I'm kind of taking myself out of that moment, and it's like, I don't want to analyze it. So if that's true, could the reverse be, at the same time, you shouldn't even analyze your unhappiness? Maybe you should kind of just start focusing more on happiness and what would make you happy. And Sarah said, figuring it out sometimes gives the negative emotion more momentum. Yes.
And again, like I told y'all, for me, it's story of my life, because when you talk about recognizing how, like, I am always turned on to recognize it. And the reason why is because I have kids. And when you talk about, look, my kids could come in and they can look at my face and just be like, what's wrong? Or they can look at my demeanor and be like, what's going on? And so when I say that I'm intentional, I literally have to be intentional all the time. So the moment when I recognize, if I can recognize it before they see it, it's always like, why are you like this at this moment? Like, understand it. And you might not know, but the ideal here is trying. Because when you start to try, just like the domino effect of happiness, when you start to try, there's a domino effect of figuring things out. There's the clues that are laid down. And I think that because intentionality is meant to be whatever it's meant to be solved, I think that just being intentional of thinking about it is the key. I don't understand why I feel like. Let's dig deeper. What would make me feel like this? If I'm just sitting here in this place right now and nobody's pulling on my hair and nobody's, bugging me, nobody's asking me for anything, why would I be in a state of right now? Okay, can I change this? Is this really a bad thing? Am I thinking? Just asking yourself all the things that you could potentially think of to figure out the placement of it. But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I'm laughing because you helped me think of something that I want to try on somebody. So like your kids come in and like, what's wrong? And then that could make somebody more mad, like nothing's wrong, I'm happy, when you're clearly not. But like, what would happen if you ask a person that's clearly mad, why are you so happy? I don't know what would happen, but I want to try it. Go ahead.
Yeah, but depends on the person. Yeah. But when you were talking there, Troy, I was just thinking that like, for instance, like I'm in therapy right now. And I think we also talked about this at the beginning of the call too. Like, sometimes you could be feeling something and you don't really know why, and you really have to kind of sit with it. Like, I've had these moments where my therapist is talking to me and all of a sudden I get tears in my eyes and she's like, why are you getting upset? And I actually don't know, because like I'm learning to get to know myself again. So sometimes you just have to sit with it, even if you're not really like analyzing or trying to like dissect what it is you're feeling. You're just like sitting in the moment and letting your body feel what it's feeling. And then you can kind of figure out like why you're feeling that way. Or also, like, when you're in an argument with somebody and then you kind of like there's a root cause to like why you're angry, but like it could be something like so like nonchalant, like doesn't have anything to do with that. Like, sometimes getting to the root will help you understand like why you're upset, so then you can like fix it.
I like to call it the blah space, because I know exactly what you're talking about. But let me tell you about something that happened to me about in 2010 when me and JClay, we were pushing music and we were doing all of this stuff. We were going around, we were doing everything, right? And one day I just didn't feel good. They took me to the emergency room. Boom. Doctors said they don't know what's wrong with me, right? I have no clue what's wrong with me. And I just said, you know what? I'm just gonna keep on going. I'm just gonna keep on trucking, right? So we're at my cousin's house. Shouts out to my cousin Kim. And she has a son that's a year younger than my son. So they were playing, running around. We're just having a good time. I'm just having a blast at the house, right? And again, there's no indication that there's anything wrong with me, even to myself. There's nothing. I'm literally having a good time. And then all of a sudden, I just busted out crying. I'm shaking and I'm crying. And they like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, I don't know. And I'm literally asking myself in the moment, I was like, what the heck, Troy? What? And I cannot get to the bottom of why I'm crying, what's wrong with me, why in such a, what I would call a momentous, and I say momentous because everybody's happy. Everybody in the room's happy, right? So this has to be a great moment. What is wrong with me? And the reality was, in that moment, I could not answer that question. So I cried my eyes out. And from there, again, just being intentional, I would ask myself every single day. I would keep on asking until eventually one day I got to an answer. And when I got to that answer, I realized that there was unhappiness. I realized that it was hidden deep down because it was something that I felt like I could not be unhappy about. And so I concealed it as something completely different. but because I was willing to be open and recognize and dig, I was able to find it. But again, and again, I know that trying to seek it out, like Sarah said, can sometimes create more negative emotional momentum, but also not trying to figure it out could put you at a place of being lost as well.
So just to be clear, what was the question that you said you continually asked yourself?
I kept asking myself what was wrong.
I got you.
Why do you feel like this? Why are you crying for no reason? What happened? Did something happen? Is it something outside of this room? Because it can't be anything in this room. Okay, what outside of this room could it be? Is it the music? No, you love making music. Is it because you're doing everything? No, you love doing everything. There were just a ton of things that I had to, because again, it's kind of like men growing up. Yeah. They tell you can't cry, right? And so because you're told you can't cry, that's something that it literally just disappears. And so at moments when you cry, that you're beating yourself up more about crying, and you might not even realize that you're beating yourself up about crying because you created a core value within yourself. And so it's that thing. And when it's that deep, it's not a simple solution all the time if you're not willing to put yourself up against it, to ask yourself and truly be intentional to figure it out.
Yeah. I love that. And to that point, I guess I'll share my crying story of no reason. Like, what the heck is going on? I was watching The Sandlot, the movie The Sandlot, in my adult life, and I hadn't watched it since I was a kid. It's a good movie. It's a fun movie. All of a sudden, tears. I'm like, this is stupid. What is going on? Like, I couldn't watch the movie. I couldn't finish the movie. I'm like, this is dumb. And then so I was beating myself up for crying because I'm like, this is no reason. This is not even a sad movie. But I realized, like, I was watching my life that I forgot about. Like, that was me playing baseball with my friends. That was me just doing all that. And you know how just life changes, and I just forgot. So it was a happiness. Like, it wasn't a bad cry. It was just like I still don't know how to explain it, but I know what it was. And it's an interesting thing. So I love these. I love the mixed emotions of this, but the still root is happiness. Like, it's all leading toward happiness. Go ahead.
And I love that you said that too, because I think that's important as well. Because a lot of times I feel like we feel like other people have to understand where we're coming from, or it's not valid, or it's not real. And the simple fact that you are able to say, I can't explain what it is, but I know what it is important, because we have to always understand too, there's a chance that nobody might not understand. And because other people can't understand, we can't place our happiness on other people's understanding of it. Because again, there goes our happiness eluding us. And so, you know, I appreciate you saying that, because everything inside of you was not meant for everyone to understand also. And that's just my own take on it.
I love that. Did you want to add something to that, Alyssa?
I just love that you guys were willing to be vulnerable and just share that. You know, I've learned too that our thoughts are actually a physical thing in our brain. And so when you constantly think the same thing over and over and over again, you're actually making this highway or pathway in your brain, and it is extremely difficult to rewire that and change your thought patterns. So it's just really sad that guys nowadays, they're taught from a young age that it's not okay to be vulnerable, it's not okay to cry, but you almost feel you almost get more happy when you do cry, because you're releasing this energy, this negative energy. Sometimes you could just feel so uplifted after a really good cry. So I'm just really glad that you guys shared that. That's really awesome.
I mean, I will say though that that taught manliness is still in me. I won't cry in front of anybody. Yeah. But I cry. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a crybaby now, but I won't cry in front of people for whatever reason. I'm gonna cry later.
You know what's fun? What's fun? But what's funny about that though, bro? I'm the same way too. Again, that at that moment when that happened to me, I was not trying to do that mug. Trust me, that mug was I was taken back by myself. I can't even believe this is happening. But to your point though, the craziness is that's the wiring that we're talking about, because I'm wired that exact same way. if there is resistance that I can put up for that, I'm going to do it simply because whatever reason. And so when you think about somebody being lost and not being able to be happy, that rewiring is what's hard to rewire. That's the part that makes it feel almost impossible, because you're going against what you said to yourself that you believe. And when you're going against what you said to yourself, that what you believed, and not only that, you probably, you've given that same rhetoric to other people, like telling your kids, now we not, like you built a life based off of that. It's tough. It's tough to say, you know what? Let me just let these tears roll. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of who's here, regardless of how I feel about myself, because a big part of this is how I feel about myself when it happens. Because the truth is, when you cry, nobody's looking at you like, oh, he crying. Like, at least not that I've ever witnessed. You know what I'm saying? Like, normally people be like, oh, what's wrong? You know what I'm saying? So, go ahead, Jay.
But no, that's true. That's part of the conditioning, because as a kid, when I did cry, it was more like, you shouldn't be crying. What you crying for? Get your face together. Like things like that. Like it's that conditioning that, but you're right. As an adult, you don't get that feedback anymore, but it's like,
right. And you literally can see it as an adult. Like how you felt when you've seen somebody cry, what you've seen other people, or how you've seen other people react when they saw somebody cry, but you've never really heard, aside from maybe if it was a boxing match or something, but I've never heard anyone ever look at somebody cry and say, oh, they weak. Oh, they weak. I never heard it.
Yeah, that's fair.
I never heard
it. Yeah.
That's true. And so okay. So would you say another happiness secret, number 3, would be, I guess, not afraid to be vulnerable, or not afraid to just be honest with yourself, no matter the feeling?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's one thing that, like, oh, go ahead.
No, you got it, Alyssa.
I was just going to say, like, that's one thing that we as a society struggle with a lot today too, is distractions. We'll feel something will come up, and we're not taught to sit with it and just like figure it out and feel. Like we're always doing something to like coat those emotions, whether it be TV, food, drugs, like alcohol, all these things. Like that is something that we have to reteach ourselves, is like to sit with it and know that everything's going to be okay. That's one thing I'm learning.
That's why for myself, bro, I love social media, specifically places like TikTok. And again, this is just my interpretation of the life that I live, is I think that most people are unhappy because they feel judged in them being who they are. And so when you start to take on, and again, it doesn't mean that you're being judged, because just like I'm saying, you never hear anybody say somebody they cry. Like, people see themselves being themselves and they feel judged, so they choose not to be themselves. The reason why I bring social media into it is because I love people who get on and be themselves. Not only do I love it, so does everybody else, which is the reason why we get hooked into social media or TikTok, because we love people being them. And I just think that freedom, that vulnerability, like I've seen people before TikTok that would never have, at least in my own mind, given themselves out the way that they've given themselves out, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jay. Go ahead.
But I wanted to say, though, also as a consumer of social media, it's important to know where you're at, because, like, based on what you two just said, I've witnessed where I could be scrolling, and in one instance, I'm ready to maybe be angry or something. Then next one, I'm ready to be like, oh, that's so nice. And then the next instance, I'm happy. And then the next instance, like, I'm sad, or like it's you go through so many emotions so fast, you never really get time to just sit with it. And so it's important how you're using social media too. Like in the case that you brought up, Troy, like that, yes, that's perfect as a producer of content, so to speak. But as a consumer, it's important to kind of know where you're at and not bring so much to your viewing experience.
And to your point, that I think that's a practice. I mean, you literally could get on and practice gratitude regardless of what you see, if you have no other way to do that, because you're right, you do feel all these emotions, but you just like I know you do, because we're talking about it, I do the exact same thing. I've looked at things and I've passed judgment on it when I first saw it, but then I also went back and said, you know what, I'm tripping. That's not even what that really is. You know what I mean? And so I think that you have the opportunity to relinquish judgment on things, which also relinquishes judgment on you, which in turn helps you to receive your happiness, because you're doing it by looking at other people's. But that's just my take on that.
Yeah.
And to that too, I've heard too, like if you look at someone doing what you want to do and you're judging them negatively, like you're making it harder on yourself to do what you want to do. You're saying, I can't be happy doing this because I'm mad at them for being happy doing this. And it's crazy, but I've done that before and I've checked myself on it too. Like I'm glad I'm past that stage now, but yeah, it's important to stay in tune with your thoughts and how you're feeling at every moment.
You know how much stuff I'd have missed in my life by saying somebody was whack for doing something?
Yeah.
And then later on coming back and doing it myself and like, dang, I was tripping. Bro, trust me, I'm with you 100% on that.
Yeah.
So is there anything we've missed from the happiness secret or the secrets to happiness? Like we talked about gratitude for number one. Number two, what was number two?
Being intentional. Number three,
being
vulnerable.
Okay with being honest with yourself or vulnerable with yourself.
Yep.
4, you just talked about not judging or being mindful of your judgments. Are you judging against what you want? Is there anything that we missed?
I would just say, just emphasizing to people that you just choose to be happy, even when you don't feel it. You know what I mean? I know it's kind of similar to gratitude, but I'm just saying, like, just choose. It's not gonna always look the same in all instances either. Sometimes it's gonna be more difficult than others, but just choose and allow yourself to look through those lenses so that way you can find more of what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say? Would you add anything to that, Alyssa?
Yeah, it's basically kind of what you just said, just like choosing to be positive, just like that positive lens, basically what you just said, because, we can choose to be negative or we can choose to be positive. But if we choose to be positive, then it'll be easier to be happy.
Yeah. I was thinking about, like, this actually made me happy, but I was thinking about, like, let's say I was mad for some reason, but I'm like, I'm being happy right now. I'm happy. Like, I would laugh at myself in that instant. So in many ways, yeah, it is true. Like, choose happiness. And shout out to my dad. He said, loving your neighbor as yourself. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I got one more too. And it's not because it's something that you've been saying this entire show over and over again, JClay. You alluded to it in a couple of your stories, but I think that when you're happy, when you actually are happy, the times when you are happy, recognize it and understanding why. Like recognizing what actually made you happy, so that way you can replicate or duplicate. But go ahead, Jay.
But what I was saying to that before is, like, I've tried sometimes and it's tough. Like I in my state, I just want to spread it everywhere. Like I'm just like, man, I'm just so happy right now. Why am I so happy? And I'm trying to trace it, but then it takes me away from it. So I'm like, forget it. I'm just gonna ride. I'm just gonna just be in this happiness and just ride it as long as possible. But not with the intent that it will fade. Just really enjoying it while it's here. So
you're being present.
Yeah, exactly.
Being in the moment, baby.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
So yeah. So okay. So one, I appreciate everyone that's been rocking with us. I appreciate our guest, Alyssa's Something Paranormal podcast. Do you want to tell us about that real quick?
Yeah, sure. So basically I've just become like obsessed with like anything that's surrounded with like the paranormal, spirituality, all these things, like near-death experiences. So I decided to make a podcast because I love podcasts and I'm like, why not? So I'm interviewing people from like INs, which I know you're a part of, and just people that I found like on social media, and I'm sharing their stories. It's been a journey. I love it.
And how long have you been?
It's been for about a little bit over a year. I've been going on now.
And real quick for our audience, because everybody might not know what NDEs are and like what that entails. Can you give like just something you learned real quick, like while listening to these stories?
Yeah, so near-death experiences, or NDEs, are just like when people have had a brush with death and they go to the other side and they come back and they share their experiences of what happened to them. So sometimes it could be like euphoria, sometimes it could be like actually seeing like what's happening if they're like in a hospital. So it's pretty interesting because we don't know what's going to happen when we die. So it's really fascinating to talk to people that have experienced something and come back.
I love that. And if people want to subscribe and find you, this is your Instagram, but anywhere else?
I'm also on TikTok. There's Something Paranormal Pod is the handle, and on Facebook, Something Paranormal Podcast.
Awesome.
I like that. You're right. We don't know nothing. That's what I say. We don't know nothing. We know everything, and we don't know nothing. Keep on going, keep on growing, and you're gonna do something.
Right. And that's the fun of it. Every moment is different. So it's like, experience the moment that you're in now, because it's gonna change right now. It just changed.
And I want to do this real quick as well. Just to kick a shout out to Loretta for joining, Betty, Sarah, and also Robert Clay, because again, you know, we always grateful for any additional commentary we get, because y'all are helping us to recognize, you know, accept and realize our perfection, and you know, just showing y'all that y'all are definitely a positive value to the show, and we appreciate y'all's comments as well.
Yeah, so if you found this helpful, be sure to hit that like, subscribe, share. We're here every Sunday from noon to 1 Central. Appreciate everybody. Any last words from y'all before we wrap it up?
Well, I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for having me on. This has been such an honor, and it's been so fun.
Cool.
Well, I will always tell you, like, I love guests that come in and first of all, be yourself, because ultimately, you know, in the spirit of the show, that's when we get to be our happiness. Just seeing you smile, that actually, you know, brought smiles to us from the beginning of the show to the end. I also want to, you know, invite you back, you know, let you know that, you know, whenever time permits and we actually have a show that you feel like fits, you know, something that you can discuss, then we definitely want to have you back. I want to thank everybody again, outside of the people that I already thanked, just for joining us, because without y'all, we wouldn't be here. We definitely be doing something. But just understanding that this is a shared experience, and you know, all the people, whether you're looking at us live, looking at us later, you know, coming back and sending us messages in our inbox, which we get from time to time. You just don't realize how much better you make us, how much you know you help us to realize our perfection, and we're glad and appreciative that you allow us to be a part of your life that way. And just, you know, like, you know, Jay said, you know, y'all are perfect, and you know, we definitely encourage everybody to come back, like, share, and subscribe every week. And Jay, you can take us out, man.
And real quick before I take us out, I'm grateful for Alyssa for pointing out to me that you can't be in a state of gratitude and unhappy at the same time. Like, it's impossible, and it's so simple. It's so like, why did I not remember this going forward? I mean, I'm going to remember going forward, but it's like, I wish I put the correlation together sooner. But yeah, anyway, appreciate y'all again. Remember, you're a perfect creation made by a perfect creator. So you might as well accept your perfection and enter perfect mode. Yeah.
If I reminded you that you are perfect, would you argue me down or step into your perfection? Welcome to Perfect Mode, where there are no excuses, no expectations, and we explore the world without limitations. I'm JClay, rapper and spiritual teacher, with my co-host Troy Washington, your friendly neighborhood realtor. Let's be real, so let's be perfect. Perfect. Everything